787.
787 departure frequency 15 will be 1257.
257, thanks.
All righty, welcome back to SciFi and Friends podcast. Today I have a very special guest, the very talented, the very wise, Witsimi to Minnie, right? Right? Ardina Moore. So thank you for coming on the show today, Ardina.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took some time out of your day because you said that you were at a dance just a couple days ago, right?
Yes. We belong to the Pawhuska district.
Mm-hmm.
The Osage Ilonshka. It's called Ilonshka dances.
Mm-hmm.
And their schedule runs right into the Quapaw Powwow schedule. So we try to do both. We have to do both places.
Right,
you know?
right.
And my husband used to always say, well, you know, it's hard to be Indian.
Right.
It's easy to be anything else, but it's hard to
Right.
be Indian.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we have all these traditional things that we have to do.
Right.
You know, and I don't know what happens if you don't do them, but
Just you've always done them.
no telling.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to try it.
So that Pawhuska, is that kind of like a traditional powwow?
Oh, yeah. Well, they call it Ilonshka, which is,
Ilonshka.
it's not a powwow, but it's a traditional dance.
Oh, wow.
And it's, they pick a person who is going to be in charge of it, and his family, the whole family is, and he's called the drum keeper.
Okay.
And so he's the keeper of the drum, and so they do this traditional dance every year called Ilonshka, that's the name for Playhouse of the Oldest Son.
Okay.
That's what they call it.
And that's Osage.
Ilonshka.
That's Osage language?
That's Osage.
Ilonshka.
And it means Playhouse of the Oldest Son.
Okay.
So then it's always the oldest son who becomes the drum keeper.
Oh, wow. Now, is that a yearly thing?
It's a yearly thing,
Okay.
but they pick the drum keeper, and his family will host that dance for probably around 4 or 5 years in a row.
Wow.
And then finally they pass the drum on to the next drum keeper,
Okay.
and then his family takes over.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a family thing,
Yeah.
and yet a tribal
Right, right.
thing, you know.
That's very cool. Does that happen over several days or like a weekend?
Well,
or
3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days, yeah. And then kind of on the final day, is that when the
The
title
final,
is passed over to the...
yes.
Okay.
The
All
final
right.
day is when they pass the drum.
Wow. So, and then you're saying you were kind of recovering from that.
Oh, yeah.
And then preparing for this weekend, which is the Quapaw Powwow.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. We just barely get through with it. In fact, we got home that night
Mm-hmm.
about 12:30 or 1 o'clock because I had to drive all the way from Pawhuska.
Yeah.
And so I was wiped out.
I believe it.
It takes several days to kind of get rested up.
Yeah, for sure. Is that because, I mean, I guess you're not sleeping that much while you're there. You're interacting with people and,
Oh, yeah.
and dancing
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh,
eating
yeah.
and...
Oh, yeah, you have dances going on all
Yeah.
afternoon.
Okay.
And then they break for what they call supper time. And so everybody goes and has dinner. And then they'll have, they give you about another hour to relax and then get dressed for the night dances.
Okay.
And then they start dancing again at night about 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And they'll dance until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
And then they'll break till the next day.
Yeah. And just do it all over again.
You do it all over for about 3 days in a row.
Huh.
And so, it takes lots of stamina,
Yeah.
and especially for elders like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the young kids, now they enjoy that, and they just really, And, of course, my grandkids all like to dance,
Yeah.
so they're out there dancing, having a good time.
Yeah. So I have a question about, Native Americans, they really value dancing, and there's a lot of different dances and a lot of ways to dance. And what do you think, let me see, how do I ask this question? Where does that come from? Where does the spirit of dance, why is that so important to Native cultures like that?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really thought about it, except, excuse me, it is an honor to be asked to be a dancer, you know, and especially if the drum keeper, they usually have about close to 100 dancers, and he picks every one of them. So that's kind of his crew,
Yeah.
you know. And so if you're asked to be on that crew, you better show up,
Yeah.
because nobody ever just, you know, you don't say no, I can't do it.
Right.
You find a way.
Not
to
much
do it.
choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then when they're picked, their whole family supports that
okay.
person.
Right. That's a big honor.
It is a big honor. And so on the final day, all of the families, they have the songs that belong to the family. Every family has its own song. And we happen to be related to General Tinker, who was probably the biggest war hero, and certainly for our tribe. And so that is usually toward the end, and all of the relatives, anybody who was related to General Tinker and is, you know, handed down, dances. And then when they dance, they give away. They have a giveaway. And a giveaway consists of, it could be anything from money to, we usually give blankets, you know, like these blankets they have out in the hall.
Right.
And shawls, and it can be any item that you want to give, and you give away to like your friends, your best friends, or maybe a friend of the family, you know, or somebody who has been a friend of the family for years. So, and it also you can give to the singers, or they have the men singers that sit at the drum, and then there are lady singers. So you can give to them also.
There's just something about moving the body in a certain way, you know, like a lot of tribal cultures share that amongst their heritage, you know. They gather a lot of times back in the day. I'm pretty familiar with Lakota culture, but they would all get together on certain times, different clans and tribes, and then they would intermingle and, you know, like you said, trade and gift and maybe even wed and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of is rooted in a social aspect, you know, what's been going on in your neck of the woods and things like that.
Oh, yeah, it's been going on for years and years. And you don't know, they might give horses away.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes they'll bring horses in and they give them to a certain person.
Yeah.
So they lead that horse around, you know, and they always kind of decorate him. I say they put a feather maybe in its mane, you know,
wow, yeah.
and braid it on there and put a blanket on its back. And then they even paint a hand on the hip or something like that.
That'd be a good gift.
Or put marks on it, you
Yeah.
know. And that's really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen very often, but I have seen it.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That would be really cool.
It is.
I'll take a horse.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. And in a way, dancing is very revealing, maybe to a person. You know, maybe in a way of everybody's fingerprint is different. Everyone dances differently. So if you make yourself vulnerable and engage in a dance, maybe you can interact with a person or people in a different way. Does that make sense? Sort of.
In a way.
Okay. Right.
The way the dances go, when I said drum keeper, that's kind of the president in charge, you know. I'm not going to say president.
Sure.
We don't call him that. It's called him the drum keeper.
Okay. Yeah.
The drum keeper is the head man, and whatever he wants to do, they follow, you know, his orders.
Right.
And so he may want them to sing a certain song, and if he says that, then they, they'll sing
Follow
that song.
lead.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And or maybe he'll want a certain kind of a dance. Like one of the dances that the young boys I think enjoy doing is the trot. It's kind of a trot. We call it a trot. It's a horse trot.
Okay.
And then that's the way they dance, like
Yeah.
a horse, and
Okay.
get out there and and then that way they can really show their spread their feathers, I guess
Yeah.
you'd say.
Right.
But they really enjoy that, and then so they do the trot, and then they'll do maybe some different kind of dances, and buffalo dance,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do that, and so it's interesting, and then you just kind of follow along and follow the leader, I guess you call him.
Right.
And I know my grandson is on the committee. The drum keeper of that district each year he picks for the entire time. He'll pick a committee.
Okay.
And there'll be about 98 or 100 people on that committee. And each one of them has a job to do.
Okay.
And so they list their names down, and and if they don't appoint you to a job, you ask,
What can I?
what do I do? And they might tell you, well, we need a crew to move our facilities to the
Right.
next dance ground.
Oh, okay.
So he may have to show up, and they'll get a big truck and load
Yeah.
everything up and go to the next dance ground.
Right.
Because there's 3 districts. See, there's the Pawhuska district and the Hominy district and the Gray Horse district.
Okay.
So the dances are all during the month of June, and it will be one weekend, every weekend during the month of June.
In each different district?
They
Okay.
move from one district to the next district.
Oh, that's a
to
busy
the next
month.
district. And the Pawhuska district, the one that we belong to, is the last one.
Okay.
So now we're finished for the year.
Good deal.
Yeah.
That
So-
seems like a very busy month.
It is. Everybody just, your whole year is has to coincide with the dances.
Right.
And see, my grandson that's on the committee, it's been hard on him because he's in law school
Oh,
in
wow.
Washington, D.C.
Oh, so he came back for all this.
Oh, yeah, he
Right.
flies back. His dad he has pickup truck. His dad meets him, and boy, they take off
Yes.
from there, and he works.
Gets to work.
And then he goes back.
So he's kind of here for the month of June and then jets back.
And so he's back and forth and back and forth.
that's dedication.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Yes, it is.
I think I find the dance, the dancing so fascinating because I wasn't brought up that way to dance. And if I was a little boy and you told me to dance, I'd be mortified. I was like in the church play and I had one sentence, I'm like shaking and really nervous. So I think I kind of find it fascinating in that way. And as I've gotten older, I've engaged with it a little bit more, and it's been freeing and fun, and I can appreciate it more,
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
I've seen some really talented dancers at the Quapaw powwow. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of practice right there,
Well, we start our children out very young. And I remember even my grandfather saying, you bounce them on your knee as long as they'll, and you teach them how to keep time
Yeah.
with the drum. And that's where they learn from the very beginning. And you hold them, and even they can't walk yet,
You're right.
but you'll bounce them on your knee and keep time with the drum. And then when they get older, get where they can walk, then we start letting them dance. And by the time they're 2 years old, they know how to get out there and dance.
Yeah. You brought them up that way. That's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
That tempo, that rhythm, that's important.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
very
keeping that.
important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so when I first met you, I was interviewing you for the documentary, The Pride of the Ogapa, and I was really interested in the origin story of the tribe. But we got to talking, and you kind of let me in on the background of your life and the cultural language classes that you've been doing and all these things. And I was like, wow, there's so much information here. You told us a lot of stories: the children in the pit, the Spider Clan, like all that kind of stuff. I know it was tremendous, and I have all that footage, and I'll release it someday. But I was just blown away. Like, I don't want to leave, but we were running out of time, so I was thinking this would be a great opportunity. We could revisit some of that. Some of those stories.
Well, I'll tell you, to begin with, I was very fortunate to be the granddaughter of the last chief of the Quapaw tribe. And my mother passed away when I was 9 years old. And so I went to live with my grandparents. So my grandparents raised me. And so I was with my grandfather and grandmother all the time. And they never spoke English. They spoke Quapaw to each other. And then they went on all of these trips to different places, and I was always with them. And we went to all of the Osage dances. And of course, my father was Osage.
Okay.
So that we went over there. We spent as much time there as we did back here, And so, and being with my grandmother, I was kind of, I was a little grandkid. You follow your grandmother around.
Right.
And she was always having me sit by her. And it was, we were talking the other day about what we did, as little children. And I said, I was always a gopher.
Right.
A gopher. Get me this, get me that, gopher.
Right.
And kind of wait on my grandmother all the time.
Right.
And so, and really that's what you do,
Yeah.
And whatever they say, that's what you do.
Right.
And my grandfather was the same way. And we got where I've been trying to find somebody that knows how to do Indian Sign Language.
Okay.
Because a lot of times the men use sign language. That you go get that and bring it to me.
Yeah, right. I thought that's what you said. Do you think that stems from hunting? They have to be very quiet.
Probably they have to be quiet.
Yeah, and be
Don't
able to
make any noise.
and be able to communicate.
Never make any noise.
Right.
And so, and they used to tell me that even back in the old days, whenever they thought they were having to hide out and be careful because there'd be enemies around, and if they had the babies couldn't cry. How did you keep a baby from crying?
Oh, wow.
You hold their nose so they can't breathe.
Oh, wow.
They have to breathe through their mouth.
Wow.
To breathe through their mouth, so you hold their nose. So you teach a baby not to cry.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, you learn things like that.
Yeah.
And then of course as they get older, you just hand signals will stop them.
Yeah.
And I know we used to have a gentleman that was worked for my grandfather on the farm down there, and he was deaf. He couldn't speak. I mean, he could speak, but he couldn't hear.
Right.
And so when my grandmother would tell me to go and tell him something, she would say, do this in sign language. So you go tell him to come and eat dinner.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to run down there, gopher again.
Yeah, right. Right.
And I'd find him, and whenever I located him, I'd say, and you do like this. That just get your attention. And then get your attention, and you say, you come and eat. You got that?
Yeah, right.
And then they always say, and that's right.
That's right?
That's right.
Okay.
And if you sit and watch some of the singers and dancers and that, they'll use some of those sign languages. And you'll see that. Huh. Okay. And if somebody says, have a good day.
That's right. I like it. I'm going to start using that. So, you met my mom during language class, and she's a sign language interpreter. There's two. There's like American Sign Language and then another one. I'm not sure which one that she's fluent in, but she did a little bit of research and to see which signs were crossovers from Indian Sign Language into the other two.
Yeah,
and there were a few. But she knows more about that than I do. She could probably.
Well, I never could pick up on the white man's sign language.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'd been around the Indian Sign Language for so long,
Yeah.
I guess. And I remember Jin used to try to teach a children sign language, and I couldn't even figure it out myself.
Yeah, yeah. Because they can spell with, they can go through the whole alphabet with, with
That's
one
right.
hand.
You do the alphabet, and so you're spelling words is what you're doing.
Sometimes there's a sign for the whole word or phrase, but yeah, you could just spell it out in a way. Like Mom used to do this a lot, which is now. She'd be like, "Get in the car."
Oh, now.
Yeah, like, okay, we're late.
Now, see, I could learn that because that's just one movement.
Right. And it's pretty clear. It catches your attention. So you said that your father was Osage, and then your grandparents spoke Quapaw. Was that because that the languages are so similar? Did your grandparents also speak some Osage?
I woke up this morning thinking, of course, my parents have been gone for so long, but I think about them all the time. And I get thinking, I wonder how my mom and dad ever met. I never did hear the story about how they met.
Oh, wow.
But thinking back, my great-grandmother, my mother was the oldest girl in her family.
Okay.
And so an oldest girl, you have to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Everybody wants you to do things for them, and especially grandmothers, because grandmothers are proud of their girls. So they usually get them kind of act as secretary. Do this, do that, write this down,
Right.
and keep track of this. And I know that with my great-grandmother, my mother was her oldest grandchild and granddaughter, and so she was so proud of her. She practically lived with her most of the time.
Yeah.
And my grandma Slagle was very wealthy at that time, and I remember she had a great big, what they used to call a touring car. It was like a bus almost. It was so big.
Yeah.
And so in the back seat there'd be space like this, and then the seat, and then the seats up here for the driver and whoever rode with them. And I remember my dad used to say that after he and my mother were married, they went with Grandma, my Grandma Slagle, every place she went. Well, my mother took care of paying the bills and doing the business part.
Okay.
Well, she had to go to town and buy stuff, and she'd shop with her, and she'd pay the bills. So she took care of her money for her.
Right.
So she needed somebody to do that, because if you got somebody that out of the family, you don't know if they'd take your money and put it in your pocket or what,
Yeah.
So she had to have somebody she trusted. And then my dad said he rode shotgun.
All right.
And these are in the days when they had highwaymen, highway robbers, I guess you call them.
Okay.
Back in the old, cars were not like they are today. I mean, everybody didn't have one,
Yeah.
and there were very few people who had cars. And if they had a car, they were probably wealthy.
Right.
And so I guess these highwaymen would hide out someplace and ambush people,
Wow.
and rob them, take their money, whatever. And so they always had to have somebody ride along to kind of protect them.
Wow.
And so that's what my dad said, that after he and my mom married, and my mother acted as her secretary, and he was
He's the muscle.
he just rode shotgun.
Yeah, right.
Protection.
Right.
And I said, what kind of protection? He said, well, he had a gun, he had a rifle, and he also had a machete.
Wow.
And you get
Whoa. I let that car go. Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, right. That's intimidating. Just that shows up.
Just show it to
Yep. Nope, keep going. Next car. That's wild.
It is.
I didn't know that went on.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, that was all over every place.
Yeah.
We weren't the only one.
Sure.
So anybody, that had an automobile
Right.
and was going to travel or something, they had to have protection. because they could get stopped any place,
And it makes total sense,
Oh, yeah.
if you're just out there driving.
Sure it
Back in the
does.
day, there's no cell phones.
Yeah.
There's nothing to
That's right.
just step out and
That's right.
gotta stop.
That's
and-
right. So
yeah.
back then, and it was not unusual for people to carry a gun all the time.
Right. Right.
So, I know my grandmother could even shoot a gun.
There you go. There you go.
She had 2 pistols.
Where you go?
Yeah,
Dual wheel.
and she would like at night we'd
Uh-huh.
sit, in the backyard, and she'd get her guns out and she'd practice.
That's amazing. Like, oh, grandma's shooting again. So,
But she knew how to do that.
oh, I bet. I bet. So, but at that time, your mom and dad had been together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not where they didn't meet on a highway robbery or anything. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
been together for a
No,
while.
let's see. When I was thinking back where they met,
Mm-hmm.
I think was I had an aunt, one of my dad's older sisters was married to a friend of my grandfather's.
Mm-hmm.
And so they lived off close to Veneta, down by Veneta someplace. So they spent a lot of time going down there to the dances because I guess they were Shawnees. I forget what tribe, but they had their traditional dances too. So they'd have stomp dances, and so our people would go down there and dance with them, and they would come up here and dance with, and they still do, come to our dances. And of course, everybody's invited to come. So we would get, it's kind of like a picnic, and you
right.
took your own food, and
Yeah.
and they kind of sat out and had a picnic, and then they would dance. And then when it was over, if you wanted to stay all night, you brought your camping gear
There
with
go.
you, know.
Yeah.
And so you would camp out and then go home.
It's always a good time. Do you know Blaze Fagan? Good friend of mine. We went to high school together. Blaze Fagan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Blaze. He's been camping down in Quapaw for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to come by a site anymore, a campsite.
Oh
Because
yeah.
they're so full up. But he inherited one or got invited to one.
That's
So
the way you get one now is you almost have to inherit it.
yeah.
Because all the spaces, I think, are all gone except across the creek.
Mm-hmm. Have they been building some back kind of across the creek? Do you build more camp spots?
There are
Or-
more campsites
Oh,
up
okay.
there.
Yeah.
And they've got kind of some new streets. Well, they're not streets.
Sure. Some roads or
A road
Yeah.
they may have 4 or 5 campsites, and they'll have a road up to that.
okay.
So those are new campsites. I used to be on that committee, but I had to get off of it. It got to be too much work.
a little bit of it's pretty tough to keep everything in order.
Well, I was
Can't
trying
imagine.
to keep up with everybody, and
Yeah.
goodness,
Yep.
and they'd come in and say, "Where is so and so's camp?" And I thought, "Oh my goodness."
One moment. Let me look. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's way back over.
Yeah. Follow the road.
Yeah. And there are roads that go up, and we have to take care of those too if you're on that committee.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of your job.
Yeah. In fact, this is July back in, I think it was May, when we had that torrential downpour. Oh. And I saw the photos of the powwow grounds. Oh. It was underwater. It was literally underwater.
And that's not the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That would take a lot of time to clean
yeah.
up. And
In fact, I'm not sure they have it
yeah.
ready now, but it even washed the bleach. They had to replace bleachers, and the water was clear up to the buildings.
Yeah, it
top
was
of the
it was
buildings.
serious. I was that was nuts. As far as like electricity and things like
yeah.
that, like
Oh, yeah.
man.
Yeah, see, we were in charge of all that, electricity and the water and the whole business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a hard job. And I don't know how long I was on that committee, for about 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I finally had to give it up. It got to be too much work.
Yeah. Yeah. So whoever's in charge
And
of
it-
that.
Well, the thing
going.
was, I kind of like to enjoy dancing and watching
Sure,
too.
sure.
And it got where I was on a golf cart going all the time.
Yeah.
The dances were going on.
Right, right.
Never got to participate.
Keeping in order and
Yeah.
make sure things are going.
Yeah. Finding places for people to park,
Mm-hmm.
or finding places for them to camp, and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. Just
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, and it's continually grown these past decade for sure.
Yeah.
It's really
and
grown.
it takes quite a committee to handle all that.
How many people are on that
Well,
committee?
when I was on it, there were about 6,
Okay, yeah, that's
and there's probably 2 or 3 more than that now.
Yeah,
I imagine about 9 or 10 people.
that's what I was thinking. 10 people would be a good start, I guess, to get that going.
It's the work.
Yeah, I bet they're working hard
That's
right
what,
now.
like my husband said, it's hard to be Indian.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So your dad, he was an interpreter. Wait, or what was he going to Washington D.C. or he kind of traveled around a little bit?
My
Our
grandfather.
grandfather. That's right.
Yeah, who was the chief,
That's right.
was the
that's
one
right.
that spent so much time in D.C.
And his
He'd be back and forth and back.
name was that Tall Chief? Was that
No, Victor Griffin.
Victor Griffin? Okay. Okay.
Tall Chief was Quapaw, but he was way back before that. Before
Okay.
they, well, let's see. I don't know how to put that. Before the tribe kind of scattered,
Right.
you know, it was way back then.
Oh, even before the Osage and the Omaha.
Well,
dispersed,
no,
or
it was
not
probably
that?
about the same time because
Okay.
because part of the Quapaws, when they split, when they divided,
Mm-hmm.
one group went down toward Claremore.
Okay.
Around Claremore was kind of their headquarters, Skytook.
Okay.
And then there's one group that was here, Miami, excuse me, and another group that went to live with the what tribe is that? In Kansas. Excuse me, in Kansas somewhere. But you know, they it kind of split the tribe up. They were still relatives, but
Right.
they kind of drifted away.
Yeah.
So
And that was around Tall Chief's or Victor Griffin's time.
no, it was the Tall Chief's time.
Okay, that's quite a ways back. Because I know 'cause we're here in the Quapaw Tribal Museum, and right in this other room behind us, there's a big timeline with
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
chiefs or maybe more. The ones that we kind of kept track of, and Victor Griffin's up there, and I
Yeah.
believe Tall Chief and a few others.
Yeah.
And then they also have those in the Red Oak Steakhouse. In the private dining room, they have all their
Oh,
portraits in there, and they have
Yeah.
a little plaque and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've seen those names many times.
Yeah.
And a lot of the photos that you see and that have been within the last 100 years, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Then you see
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
a lot of those same names over and over again. So.
Yeah, my grandmother's family were the track.
Mm-hmm.
They call it Sigda.
Sigda.
Sigda means track in Quapaw. And so her family were the Sigda family.
Okay.
Sigda track family.
So I
I
saw.
was saying track.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and I've seen that too. There's a real famous photo that I've seen, and I'm sure many people have seen it, of I think it was a peyote meeting with Moonhead, and they're all out front. They all kind of got together and took a picture, and I've seen Signa Track and several of those people too. So
Oh, goodness, you know, I'm still trying to locate my pic. I have a picture of
Okay.
him, or I did have.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to get it back or not.
Uh-oh.
Because I loaned it to someone, which I never should have done. But they promised that they would make copies. And if they did, I don't know where they are, you know, because
Right.
I haven't gotten my original back yet.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how to do that. peacefully.
Yeah. If you get that picture back, I'll help you out. I can make some copies for you.
Yeah,
Be
I
more
know
than happy.
you could. And I'm still, like I said, I'm still kind of tracking it down.
Yeah.
I think what may have happened, I think they may have taken it over to Osage country, and they wanted to make copies to put in those meeting houses over there.
Right.
Moonhead was the head of all of those,
Okay.
all of the meeting houses.
Yeah.
Getting in my way.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
I can't talk without waving my hands around.
Right. It's very important. Well, was I don't know how much you know about Moonhead, but was Moonhead Osage, or I thought he was? Yeah, he was kind of a.
No, he was not Osage.
Yeah.
He was Caddo.
Okay.
Caddo and what else?
He kind of traveled around, right? He didn't really stay in one spot.
Oh no, he lived. His home was way down close to Lawton,
Okay.
Anadarko,
Oh wow.
in that area.
Right.
His home was way down there. So he was Caddo and what else, something else.
Mm.
I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, it's.
I want to say Second Fox, but I'm not.
Oh, really?
I don't know for sure if that was it or not. But
That almost seems right. I feel like I've read that somewhere. Maybe.
that's
Maybe.
what comes to mind, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I do know that he was Caddo.
Okay. Yeah. And he was, just for the people that are listening or watching, he was, he kind of started the peyote church, or what was. I've read his name in many places, in the museum, and heard some stories, but never really truly what he was about.
Well, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I know that he was the leader, and there was a story that I had heard years and years ago, and I told that story. I can't remember who I told it to. I think maybe John Berry.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so it really wasn't started by by Moonhead. And I said, well, he had to have been one of the men who had been designated.
Right.
You know. But it's an old story. Now, not very many people know this, and I haven't even told very many people
Oh, really?
how it started.
Right.
But as the story goes, there were and I don't even know what tribe the people were, but they were in an area excuse me, where they were running out of food. They didn't have, they couldn't find any. The buffalo had moved off, and they couldn't. They were lacking food for their camps, and so they decided they'd send a group of hunters to go and get some deer. Get some deer and whatever, and bring food back to the camps. There were several camps. And so so they got a group together, and there were probably 6 or 8, maybe 10. I don't know how many people. They didn't say how many.
Sure.
But there were at least 3 women that went with them. And you know why? The women were the ones that did the butchering.
Okay.
They cut up the meat and stuff.
Okay.
So they took the women with them. And so, because if they'd kill a deer and they'd go off and leave it, the women would have to take care of the meat while they went hunting for more.
Right.
You see. And so so these women went with them, and they were off down in Texas area someplace, way down close to the Rio Grande. And so they were riding pretty hard, to get down to the country where they were going to be hunting. And one of the women got sick, And so they decided, well, they better leave her and let her get over her. I don't know. She's
Yeah, you can move that way. You can hit it. It's strong.
so they kind of made a little camp around some I forget what you call those little trees, that don't grow very high. Excuse me. Anyway, they had blankets. And they kind of made her a little camp spot, and left water for her and stuff like that. And they said, we'll be back in about 2 days.
Oh.
And so she had enough to last her that long, because they were going to go on hunting. And so, okay, they went off and left her. So she was under this kind of little canopy tree, and she was lying there on her blanket, and I guess she was kind of went out of her head,
Sure.
with the fever.
Yeah.
She had a fever, and so her fever got so high that she was hearing things, and she was seeing things, she was hearing things, and she heard this voice came to her, and the voice came to her and said to her, I'm going to teach you a song, and you sing this song. When you sing this song, you put your hand out like that, and you feel around on the ground, and you'll find some food. And you get that, you find some plants, and you pick that plant, and you eat it. And when you eat it, that's medicine. And that medicine is going to make you well. It will make you well. And then you would recover, but take time to do that. So there she was, and then you listen to these songs, and then when you go back home, when you get back home, you go and teach these songs to the chiefs, and teach them these songs, and tell them that these are medicine songs. These are medicine songs. And then you take some of that medicine with you, and you show it to them, and where you got it, and you tell them to go and get that medicine, and you bring it back. When they bring it back, then they'll have the meetings, and they'll sing those songs. Okay. So there she was, she's out, unconscious, out of her head. And so pretty soon she could hear this singing. And she started singing along with it, She was singing this song, just singing along, and she put her hand out like this on the ground, just bare ground, and she felt something down there. It kind of felt like a little knob, so she pulled on it. That was the medicine. And she got a hold of it, and she ate some of it. She ate some of that. So she started feeling better. And and so she'd just drink her water. And the songs kept coming to her. And more songs and more songs. And when she'd hear the songs, then she'd reach out and she'd find that medicine. And she kept taking the medicine, and drinking the water. And after a day or so, she was feeling a lot better. By the time the hunters came back, she was sitting up. She was already well. She had taken that medicine. She told them the story. And they said, oh, okay. Says, well, they got some of that medicine. They looked around, they found some. And they took it with them, and they went back to their camp. So she goes to the chief's camp, his teepee, whatever, there, and told him the story. And they brought that medicine to him. She sang those songs. She taught him those songs. They taught him those songs and taught him how to use the medicine. And so they did, and that's where it came from. That's how we got.
Wow. Wow.
And so when I told that story to John, they said, well, it wasn't a man who did it after all. It was a woman.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the women have to feed everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why they took them along with them, so they could cut up the meat,
Right.
and that sort of thing. So Anyway, that was a story that I heard,
Mm-hmm.
and I have never heard it again from anyone
Oh, wow.
else. And I don't know who told it to me.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I was a child, but I just remember. I remember the story, and it was probably sometime during my grandfather's time, whenever
Yeah.
he was chief, and see, he was also a roadman.
Okay.
You know what a roadman is?
I don't. Yeah.
A roadman is a leader of the Native American church.
Okay.
And when I told you he went to Washington so
Mhm.
many times, see, they tried to outlaw the
Right.
use of peyote.
Right. Right.
And so he went up there numerous times to protect that,
Right.
the right for us to have
Wow.
that medicine. Because to us, it was a medicine.
Right. Right.
And they didn't have any right to take it away.
Right.
So we still have it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But he worked hard to keep that. And it wasn't just for, but it was for all
Mm-hmm.
Indian people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that believed in our Native American church.
Sure. Sure.
And Moonhead was one of the leaders. So he went down at his country.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of meetings down there, and then they'd invite him to come different places.
Okay.
So that's how he would go, and he would lead churches in different places, and they would pick that up, and so that's how it kind of got.
Spread around a little
Yeah.
bit. Was Moonhead also considered a roadman?
Oh yes.
Okay, you're right.
Oh yes. Yes, he was a roadman,
Okay.
and oh goodness. Well, I don't know who now
Mm-hmm.
the roadmen are.
Yeah.
I used to know all of them, but I kind of my Uncle Ed
Mm-hmm.
Redigal.
Okay.
You know that their church is the one that we go to. We call it our church.
Okay.
And the reason we do that was because he said that was the last altar that my grandfather laid out.
Oh, wow.
And my grandfather would always lay out all of the altars, so because he was kind of the head roadman.
Right.
And so that was the last altar that he laid out, and that's at not Bartlesville, but I can't think of that little town where it is.
Somewhere down south.
Huh?
Somewhere down south a little bit.
Well, it
By
was
Bartlesville?
between Bartlesville and Hominy.
Okay.
There's a little town down there, and that's where Uncle Ed lived. That was
Okay.
his home place, the Redigal home place.
Okay.
And so that's where they laid that altar out. And there's still a roundhouse
Yeah.
there.
Is Uncle Ed still with us or?
No,
not
he's
anymore?
gone now.
Okay.
And but his son,
Okay.
we call him Eddie Jr.
Eddie Jr. Now, is he a roadman nowadays, or did he
Yes,
kind of pick up
I'm
the?
pretty sure he
yeah,
is.
kind
yeah.
of continued on with that. I know with the Quapaw name giving, there used to be a name giver. Is a roadman passed down in a similar way, or can you just kind of say, I believe in this, I really like it, I'd like to be a part, I'd like to be a roadman, you know, or is it kind of like passed down from?
And who is that?
I'm wondering, in the same way, like if you were the name giver of Quapaw names, only you could give names. Is that how roadman, that status works, or can you just kind of
Well,
join the club?
it's hard to. Actually, it's kind of hard for me
Yeah.
to figure out
Yeah.
who that should be,
Oh, okay.
because I believe one way and I think somebody else is doing it another way.
Yeah. Are we talking names now? Okay. Okay.
We're talking names.
Okay.
Grandma Supernaw
Mm-hmm.
was the name giver, And she and my grandfather were kind of raised together. About they were about the same age, I guess it
Okay.
was. And so they always said that Moonhead gave the right to conduct the churches to my grandfather. So
Okay.
made him a road band.
Yeah.
And he gave the right to give names to Grandma Supernal.
Okay.
So that's how she got that. But nobody else is supposed to be able to do that. Then she, when she was getting ready to pass on, she didn't leave that to anybody. So it was up to her to leave that rite of passage
Right.
to someone. And she didn't, as far as we know, didn't
Sure.
do that.
Right.
But one of her sons, and I can't remember which one it is, one of her sons or grandsons is naming people.
Okay.
And I don't know which one it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would say you would agree that maybe that name giving is sacred.
Oh,
a
yes.
sacred right. So
Oh, yes.
better be
Oh, yes.
right in the right place.
I have been asked to do that, and I told them, no, I don't have the right.
Yeah.
That right was not given to me to give
Right.
names.
And then during language class, you were saying that if you were to take on a Quapaw name, you just kind of name yourself
Yeah.
anymore. Like
yeah.
that's about the
you
only.
can do it yourself,
Sure. Right.
but I can't do it for you.
Yeah. Right. And no one else, as far as this way we think, no one else can either.
Uh-huh.
And so your Quapaw name is
Mushroom.
Monstrongita,
Mushroom gita.
which means feather that stands up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Did
Standing feather.
standing
Okay.
feather. Did Grandma Supernaw give that one to you? Okay, but you said that you were very young when she did.
Actually, that was my second name, and
Okay.
I don't remember what my first name was, but back then, I think I was probably, I don't know, 5 years old, something like that. I got sick, and I don't know. I guess they took me to the hospital and in Joplin. I remember being in the hospital,
Oh wow.
and of course being the first grandchild. Everybody was about to collapse, I guess. So they decided I was going to pass.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you do in that case is give a person a new name,
Oh,
like give them a new life.
right.
So they got Grandma Supernaw to give me a new name.
Oh wow.
So that was the name she gave me. And I understand that it was it was a name that was kind of passed down from my grandfather's side of the family. And I think it was either his grandmother's name or his great-grandmother's name.
Oh wow.
So she picked a name from the family and
Yeah.
kind of brought it forward.
Yeah. That has to have great significance, And I
Kept it in the family.
right, and I find name in this scenario, your name actually changed. That happens a lot in the Bible, where people are one person, and then an event happens, and it's like you are no longer this person. You are from now on this person, and it seems such a significant moment in someone's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Anymore, it's I couldn't change my name very easily. I'd have to pay a fee and application and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just seen there's something about a name change that really signifies a change in a person as far as stories.
But
and-
it keeps it in the family.
right. In
Yeah.
your case, yeah,
Yeah,
they were like
yeah.
which
Hand
was
it
cool.
down.
Which was really cool. Gives honor to
Yeah,
those.
that's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the story they told me, that name had been my grandfather's, either his grandmother or his great grandmother name.
That's really cool.
It was handed down to me.
So when you were growing up, you said you spent a lot of time with your grandparents. And,
Oh, yeah.
And they spoke Quapaw.
Oh yeah.
So was your first language Quapaw and then picked up on English, or you knew English?
No, they didn't want me to speak Quapaw. And then the reason,
Really?
well, both of my grandparents had gone to school, and they wouldn't allow them to speak Indian at school. They had to speak English, and so they'd get in trouble if they spoke Indian.
Right.
If they spoke Quapaw. And so when I would try to speak Quapaw, they'd say, "Oh no, you don't say that." They didn't want me to get in trouble at school.
Oh.
I said, "You say that in English."
Oh.
Okay. So they kind of kept me from speaking it.
Wow.
But I just heard it. I heard it all the time, and they would speak to me, and I could understand them, and I would do whatever what they told me to do, you know.
Yeah.
It was kind of a hard thing to do, but I tried not to speak Quapaw.
Oh,
Isn't
that's
that
sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
It is sad, and I think that happened to a lot of the kids that when they went to Indian schools.
Yeah.
They wouldn't allow them to speak
Yeah.
their language.
There's a great documentary called "Good Day to Die."
Yeah.
And that's the very first part of that. They talk
Yeah.
about the boarding schools and how they weren't allowed and
Oh, I know.
to speak that language or their language, and a lot of the
But they were punished.
There's a really famous Native American, Dennis Banks, who talks about he was at Wounded Knee, the protest at Wounded Knee, and was a huge part of the American Indian movement. And he talks about how he was just pulled from his mom's arms when he was just a boy, and pulled away to boarding school for months and months at a time. And he said when I came back, my mom and we didn't have the same relationship anymore because I didn't speak her language anymore, and it was a really sad story. I mean, he was a great figure for Native Americans, but
That's
it's just
right.
a tragic story.
It was a sad time. And I think of that too. I think, that was so sad that our people weren't allowed to speak their own language, And so it cut down on communication. It cut down on learning our own traditional ways
Right.
of doing things because they couldn't interpret it,
Right. All the songs that were sung in Quapaw,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. So was there a time later on that it was encouraged more?
Well, and after the people started coming home, graduating from school. In other
Right.
words, they'd come back home.
Right.
Then I think by that time they started wanting their children to learn.
Right.
So they encouraged it. But by then, the elders were dropping off,
Yeah.
and so they weren't learning. And so when I started my language class, it was kind of a needy thing to
Sure.
do.
Yeah.
I thought I needed to do it,
Yeah.
because who's going to do it if I don't do it?
Right.
There weren't very many people that had been raised like I had by someone who spoke the language.
Right. Right.
And it was very hard, and it actually is hard for me because I had to work at it pretty hard too. And then the good thing about it was graduating from college, I got my degree in education.
Perfect.
So, and it was to teach, and so I used a lot of those methods to interpret and to teach Quapaw. I still do.
Yeah. Right. And you're a fantastic teacher. You really are.
Oh, I'm not.
I learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
We had one semester of
Yeah,
language,
yeah. And the more you come, the more you learn.
Right, right.
Because we don't always have the same lessons, Sometimes I add to it or take away or, stuff like that. And but I do a lot of storytelling, and I think it's in the storytelling that helps. Because they want to learn the stories.
Right, yeah.
And
the prayers, too.
Yeah.
The prayers are really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And so your family, and learn your family, and kind of teach it to your kids or anybody that will listen, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Dixie
And you know, when I go someplace where there are people that I know can understand, well, just like in Osage country, see, our language is virtually the same.
Right, right.
And so when I go over there, you know, and I see my relatives and friends over there, I always shake hands and say, Hawaii, Hawaii. You know, because they don't say Hawaii. They'll say hello.
Oh, right, right.
You don't say hello, you say Hawaii.
Right, right. Is it the same in Osage,
Oh, yeah.
Hawaii?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Because we were talking about horses, Shringagani, and how that's very similar to Osage and everything. But like one of the stories that you tell on the documentary, and it's probably the number one thing that people message me about. They say, hey, the documentary was awesome. Ardina, at the very first, that story of the tribe splitting and going 3 different directions, like that was amazing. Like, people message me that all the time. I got a message yesterday from a good friend, Burke, who lives in California.
Oh, really?
And he was saying that was fascinating. He really enjoyed it. You know, I'm like, wow. Yeah. So, but basically at one point, there was a Sioux tribe, general blanket statement, right, Sioux. And then they decided to kind of branch off and go their own way, and they came to that river, and at that river, that's kind of where the Omaha, Osage, and Okapa people kind of separated, right? So
that's right.
You know, I know that story because of you.
That story?
Yeah, yeah.
How we got separated.
Right.
It is a good story, and it does help kind of figure out what happened, you know, way back then.
Right.
And who was it? I can't remember who it was. Introduced me one time and said, "She's the girl that tells that story." She likes to tell that story how we separated.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. She's the origin story. Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, I've told it so many times, I think everybody knows it, but they don't.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't understand it. And so I do kind of start with, this is how we got here, you know, and especially the downstream people,
Sure.
you know, and the upstream people.
Yep.
And so that's how we got to be who we are.
Right. And it kind of explains a lot of the similarities, you know, through the language and the traditions, the dance. You're like, wait a minute, you guys are kind of doing the same thing. And then you will be like, well, we were basically the same people at one point, you know, if you go far enough back, we kind of, but then also you were kind of lined up as well. So
exactly.
Trade routes and.
I don't know, you know, I think a lot of our makeup is similar also. And I know one time I was at Santa Fe, I think it was, at the market, and I had a booth. And of course those booths are about this big, you know. But I had my sign up there, I had my name, and I was Quapaw, you know. And so people just are in droves, you know, they go through and back. And so there were these 2 girls that came up, and they were looking at the signs, and they said, well, where is Ardina? I said,
right.
I'm Ardina.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, you're Ardina. You're Quapa. You're Ogapa. And I said, yes. And they said, we're Omaha. We're Umaha. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? You could pass for my daughters. They look so much like my girls. I couldn't believe it. They're same body makeup, you know.
Yeah.
And so they build and all, they were tall. And I said, you know, a lot of Indians are short. The Quapaws and Osages are tall.
Yeah.
I said, if you ever around them, Quapaws, Osages, and I guess Omaha, because I haven't been around the Omaha, see. So they're very much like we are.
Right, right.
You know. And when I saw those girls, I said, golly, you could pass for my daughters, you know. And finally, one of my daughters came along, came back, and they got to meet him. And I was going to tell you who they were related to, and I can't think now. He was in that movie. His name was Winds in His Hair.
Mm-hmm.
That, what was his name? Shoot.
I bet I can look it up real quick. Rodney A. Grant? Is that his name?
Rodney Grant.
Rodney Grant.
And those girls, one of them's name was Grant.
Okay.
And she said told me their name.
This gentleman?
And I said, oh, then you're related to Rodney. And I knew Rodney. I had met him.
Is that Dances with Wolves?
Yeah, Wind in His Hair. That's him.
Okay.
That's him, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they were related to this guy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But that was so unusual and, kind of a just out of space
right.
meeting.
Yeah.
Run into somebody that was related to somebody that
Right.
I knew.
Yeah.
And also being Omaha, being similar tribe,
Yeah.
And so anyway, whenever we went up to Omaha, I was anxious to go because I really would like to get together with them more and find out if their stories, traditional stories, are the same as ours.
Right.
Are
You mean like the turtle story, that those sort of stories?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's this one lady that let's see, what is her name? She's a stabler. Stabler.
Okay.
Now stablers are part. Well, the stablers in Oklahoma are part Omaha.
Okay.
Let's see. It's the same family.
Right.
And how did that happen? Aunt Maggie Redigal,
Mm-hmm.
I think, was the grandmother, and she married an Omaha man, and he was a stabler, and so they had two sons, maybe three. But anyway, then he either died or they split, and she came back to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so there's several stablers here in Oklahoma now, and the whole family, that are Osage.
Oh, wow.
And there's a bunch of stablers up there too that are Omaha.
Okay, there we go. Omaha, that's pretty far away. Is that probably one reason why? It's
But
hard to get
I'm not
together?
saying it. You're supposed to say Omaha,
Omaha.
like
right.
a U instead of an O.
Ah, yeah.
Kind of
Omaha.
Omaha.
And then wasn't Osage like? Oh man, how did you say that in the documentary? How we say it? Osage.
Osage.
Mm-hmm. It's I forget. It was the one that was the most different. I think Esquapa was Okapa though.
Ogapa.
Yeah, that's a change. Oh, Wazaji, wasn't it? Wazaji, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wazaji.
I heard that so much this weekend I forgot.
Yeah, right.
Wazaji.
Yeah.
Wazaji.
And then those names just kind of changed over time, and with Europeans, we weren't able to speak that way.
I get thinking about that time. My youngest daughter, Martha, my daughter Martha, she was the first Miss Indian USA.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And when she won the pageant, they had this pageant in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And what was his name they had for the MC was, some Hollywood person. I cannot think what his name is now. My memory is getting really bad. But he introduced her and he says she's Osage.
Oh no! Oh no!
Osage.
That's
So we thought that was
quite.
funny. We keep going around saying Osage.
Right. What are you, Osage?
She's Osage.
Oh wow! Close, but no.
Oh.
So do those what you would call those are tribes, right? Omaha is a tribe, Osage, Quapaw tribe. Within those tribes, do they all have different clans as well? Because I know like the Quapaw have the crane and the bear and the spider and
Well, that's
people
what
like
I
that.
don't know. That's why
okay.
we need to get together to
Yeah.
find out.
Do a little cross-referencing and see what lasted.
And
what
we're going to
changed.
have that conference
Mm-hmm.
the last day of August and the first day of September.
Okay. What
And
conference
it'll
is
be at
that?
Downstream.
What conference is that? Is that one of the language conferences?
Just Quapaw and Omaha.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a get together
Oh, cool.
conference, and of course the Osages and Quapaws and Omaha.
Omaha.
Got to make myself say that.
Yeah, right.
Omaha.
I was saying, Karen was talking about a language gathering, and I think it happened
That's
during
it.
class. Okay, yeah. She was
Degiha.
talking-
Degiha.
Degiha. What does that mean?
That's a language.
Oh, right. Degiha. Then Ogapa Iya. That's people.
Uh-huh.
Ogapa people. So Ogapa D.
Ogaf.
Ogapa.
Ogaf.
Ogapa.
Like golf ball,
Uh-huh.
only leave out the L.
Uh-huh.
Ogafa.
Ogapa. Ba.
Ba.
Ogapa.
Ogafa.
That's tough.
Have to teach you how to, it's really funny because you could say golf ball,
Right.
and that sounds normal.
Yeah.
But if you leave the L out, it's golf.
Golf.
Golf. Ba. Not
Golf.
ba.
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 Oh, and it's a ba instead of
Ba.
a pa.
Ogaf. Ba.
Oh.
Ogafba.
Oh, okay.
Ogafba.
Ogafba. Wow.
Yeah,
I've
you
been
got
saying
it.
it wrong this whole time.
You got it? Ogafba.
Ogafba. Oh, wow.
And Omaha.
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 Omaha. See, now that's what's so good about the language class.
Uh-huh.
Because you can go online and they have a lexicon of some recorded vocabulary and stories. And the audio is kind of old, so sometimes it's hard to tell. And you can even look at their dictionary, and they've kind of phonetically done that. But I did a little bit of research before coming to language class, and I was saying everything wrong, But to run it past you, you kind of like pointed me in the right direction, just like you're doing now.
No one around here
No,
to
we're
hear me speaking. But the guy that does that gets paid
Okay.
for doing that and putting it on the internet, or
Right.
lexicon, as you can. But he doesn't.
Doesn't actually speak.
Exactly.
Ogafba.
Yeah, and but he did teach a class over at not at Pahuska, but at where was it? Skytook, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he taught a class over there. Trying to teach Quapaw. There's some Quapaws that live around there.
Okay,
And in
yeah.
Tulsa, because that's closer for them to go to. you know.
Okay.
And because, and it's hard for people who live farther and farther away to come and take a language class back here.
Right.
And we tried it one time, and there was a group that came from Tulsa, and some that lived on the other side of Tulsa, and it was really hard for them to come.
Yeah.
And it would take all day long for them to drive down here, and our class would last about an hour and a half, then the rest of the day driving back. So, and I know it is hard, and I couldn't go over there and do that.
Right. But at one time you did a video series that's on YouTube that I thought was really done really well.
Oh, on here?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think you were here.
Yeah, I was here.
Yeah, and this video series is really good. It has nice graphics.
Yeah.
As you're saying, like the animals, you're saying wasa, and then the bear comes up and everything.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. Yeah. And while we were taking the language class, it was good to hear it. And then be able to come back and practice
and
speaking
that's why I always tell, now, we don't have any other occasions when you can get together, really. But if we have a lot of like memorial dinners. And,
right.
And I always tell my students now, when you go to dinner down there, sit with some of your people that were in your class so you can
Yeah.
practice on each other,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And like, skunchtani,
Skunchtani. Do
skunchtani.
you want some water?
Yeah. And so stuff like that, and then the different foods, you know, you can get, kind of look at the class over here. So you, like, niskida, you have that on your table all the time.
Right, right.
Yeah, salt
Past the
and
niskada.
pepper, salt and pepper. And you don't say flour usually, but you do have corn. Corn. Wataji.
Wataji.
Wataji was also the name of one of our chiefs.
Oh, really?
Way back there, yeah.
Wataji.
Wataji. And then tu. Skunchtatu.
Potatoes.
Two.
Fry 'em
Potatoes, yeah.
Fry them up.
Onions, majanki.
Janki.
Majanki. And beans, obaniga.
Obadine.
Obaniga.
Obaniga.
Yeah, okay. And fruit, conte.
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 Right, and you can just especially with the food, you can apply that to every day, you know.
Yeah,
and the
sure.
counting and
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that. The kinship is another
Yeah,
one, you know.
that's right.
See people
now
like
with
that.
Stephen and Dixie, my son Stephen and Dixie, whenever we go out and have dinner or something, you know, we'll kind of
You slide some words in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
throw some quapa in there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that's good, because that's the way you should do it. You should use it.
Yeah. I thought
If
Dixie.
you use it, you don't forget it.
Right. I thought Dixie was really good. She was a really good teacher to help us through some
Oh,
of those
Dixie?
tougher times. Yeah, I was
Oh,
really
yeah.
really impressed. And Stephen too. Both those their knowledge of the language was really strong.
I think they're doing really good, and I try to encourage them to do more, because when I'm gone, who's going to do that? You know, they've got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have to carry it on.
Right. Right.
So
I'm glad that there's increasing interest in learning the Quapaw language
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
They have there seems to be more gatherings, more seminars, and
Yeah.
more language classes too,
Yeah.
and easier. Like Karen, man, how many pages does Karen have of different vocabulary?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now we have notebooks that she's kind of put together, and it's like that's a great resource.
it is.
for
it is.
for advanced speakers and for beginners
Sure,
too. So
sure.
it's good to see that that's kind
It
of
is. We need to use it
spreading.
as often as we can.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the problem is we just don't think of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we just don't think about it. So.
It's kind of with anything, you know. You have to spend time with it.
I don't know if we have. I haven't talked to Karen about doing this, but we could get some T-shirts made or something.
That'd be cool.
It says that say Ogafaiya.
That'd be cool.
Speak Quapa.
Yeah. I just want one that just says Ipahaji.
Ipahaji.
Just that's what I'll wear that T-shirt. that
You
kind
can
of
put it on the back. My name is.
Ipahaji. It means I don't know, and I used it often in the class. Learned that one.
Ipahaji.
Yeah. And one of the things that you stress and talk about during class is kind of the goal is to make a prayer. And then when you write that prayer, be able to speak that into Quapaw. And then there are certain correct ways to say a prayer in Quapaw, like Honshron and Tate. Like that's how you start.
That's right.
Right. So what are some of those? What are some of the techniques or guidelines to praying in
A
Quapaw?
prayer?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I think everybody kind of makes up their own.
Sure.
They might even say Hawaii
Hawaii and Tate?
and Tate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 'cause that's who you're speaking to.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I have heard some of my kids. I don't know which one. Might have been Joseph, but Joseph speaks not only Quapaw but Cherokee.
Okay.
You know, and so I encourage him every time he has a chance to do a prayer, because it's good for him, but it's good for other people to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good for other people to see him doing it,
Right.
to know that he knows that. And his dad, my ex-son-in-law, we're still close.
Yeah.
In fact, we were sitting on our bench over at Pawhuska yesterday, and I said something to Joe about going to, where is it there? North Carolina.
Okay.
The Cherokees have a big festival or something
Yeah.
in North Carolina, and I went with them one time, and so I was telling him about what happened. This is when my daughter was alive, and so she and I were out kind of walking up and down the streets. Are all the businesses are owned by Cherokees.
Okay.
And you go in and it's kind of different. And so we went in this one store and we walked in and this guy was back there and he said, CO. And I turned around and I said, CO. And pretty soon he said, CO something or other. And I said, Toisha. Susie looked at me and I looked at her kind of funny and I said, let's get out of here. That's all I know in Cherokee.
Right.
So we started out and I waved at him and I said, Donadagahain. That means I'll see you later.
Yeah, bye.
And he just waved at us.
That's funny.
So I was telling Joe that and I said, you're going to have to teach me a little bit more Cherokee.
Yeah. Well, when Wyatt, you remember Wyatt when he was here?
Yeah.
I think he's part Cherokee.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he knew some Cherokee.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was nice to kind of hear like, water in Cherokee is this. I don't remember, but he could kind of juxtapose the different languages.
Yeah. How do they say water? I forget now. It's not me.
No, it was pretty different than.
Yeah, but when I'm around them, I can understand them.
Yeah.
Because they speak. In fact, for the powwow now, Joe's 2 or 3 of his sisters are going to come and help cook.
Okay.
And so they're going to be staying. They won't stay up at downstream because it's too far away. And I got them rooms at the Hampton Inn in Miami. So it'll be shorter for them. They won't have to drive so far.
Right.
But I'm kind of looking forward to seeing them because they speak Cherokee all the time to each other.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Their family, the whole family.
Yeah.
And so I always learn a little bit more from them,
Yeah. I think Cherokee is one of those languages that it's pretty popular amongst.
Well, there's so many of them.
Right. The bigger tribes like Lakota.
See a big tribe, and they learn their language at their knees.
Yeah. Like there's a really good TED Talk. I can't exactly remember what the title is, but it's about the Lakota language and how different efforts have been put in place to catalog it and get it down. And now I Googled it just the other day. They actually have a online program with textbooks and CDs and videos. Yeah, all for the Lakota language. And then they have different tiers. So like you could be a beginner, level 1, level 2, and all the way up to master, I guess is what they call it,
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that, and it'd be awesome to get other languages like that too,
That's a good idea. It's a good project.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I could get my crew to.
We need a drum leader to get 100 people to help us out with that.
But it is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might get Dixie and I don't know who
She'd be good.
Recruit somebody.
Yeah. Dixie'd be good. Karen's good.
Oh yeah, Karen.
You know.
Dixie and Karen.
It'd be a good start right there.
Yeah.
I bet Karen could probably hear us. And
and they're close together too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wish we could get Anna in on it.
Mm-hmm. McKibben. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is she good? Does she speak pretty well?
No, I wish she would come.
Yeah.
Because her family is always, they've always been active and everything going on. So she needs to learn it too.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't see her enough.
Yeah.
I need to be around her more. So,
I bet you'll see her this weekend.
yeah.
She'll be around.
Well, she's going to be real busy, though,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, she usually is.
running.
Yeah. With things like, with stories particularly, how do those get passed down? Just kind of just being told, just being around the storytellers?
From what my family, the family stories, have told me that my grandmother, my grandfather Griffin's grandmother raised him.
Okay.
Because his parents died, and so she raised he called her his sister, but she was actually his cousin.
Okay.
And she raised the two of them together like brother and sister. They thought they were brother and sister, but they're actually cousins. So anyway, she lived, her house was, where you turn in the driveway to go into the campgrounds? That property, where it comes to the corner, it corners out there just a little bit farther down. Her house sat right there.
Oh, wow.
That was her allotment.
Okay.
Her original allotment. And one of her grandchildren's has a house that kind of sets back there, and then their family cemetery is behind there.
Okay.
Sometimes you see a flag flying out there that's their cemetery.
Okay.
And that was my grandfather's cousin.
Okay. That was raised as his sister?
Yes.
Okay.
That was raised as his sister. And then, let's see, she married... I was trying to think. I guess she had one. She married a Shawnee guy.
Okay.
Shawnee Indian. So now, their children were all Shawnee and Quapaw.
Right.
And that's who is the chairman of the powwow committee right now. Is Mike.
Okay.
Mike Shawnee.
Yeah. I met him last year.
I'm trying to remember his name. But so that, now he's a descendant of that, my grandfather's cousin. His adopted sister, I guess you call him adopted.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All one family.
Right.
And so there's a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of them, their last name is Shawnee.
Okay.
Not Quapaw.
Yeah, right. Makes it easy.
Well, but their father's name was Shawnee too, And in fact, what was his dad's name? Bill Shawnee. Mm-hmm. I remember my grandfather really did like Bill Shawnee. He was of course, he was actually, I guess, Indian way, it would have been his brother-in-law, sort of, so to speak.
Right.
Because he was married to my grandfather's cousin, who he thought was his sister.
Yeah. It all works out.
Indian way.
Yeah.
So, and Bill Shawnee was a singer.
Okay.
He was a singer. He knew every song there was, I think. And any time they had anything going on, they got Bill to come and sing. Because he knew all the peyote songs.
Oh, wow.
He knew all the dance songs. He knew all the Shawnee songs, and
Guy's got a good memory.
oh yeah,
Sheesh.
oh yeah. But he knew all of those songs, and even down at Senecas, when they have their dances down there, they would come and get him to come down there and sing.
Wow.
So he knew all the Seneca songs too.
Wow.
Very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Didn't write anything down. I guess it was all right there.
Yeah, that's a sharp guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I'm sure a lot of that was handed down to his grandkids, son, and I don't know, would Mike be his son? Mike would be his grandson, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I met Mike last year when I
Yeah.
was flying the drone over the powwow, and he's like, "Don't fly that over people." I'm like, "Okay, you got it, bud. I won't." I won't. He was good. He was a little bit busy at the time.
It's a busy job,
Yeah, yeah,
and I know they're glad to get it over with.
yeah. It's good though.
Oh, yeah.
People love coming out to it and love participating and watching.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
they do a really good job at that.
Yeah. They look forward to it so
Yeah.
much. You know,
Yeah.
they used to call it a picnic.
Really?
A long, long time ago, they'd call it a picnic. And then finally they started calling it powwow, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, the original powwow grounds was over across the river. And we had a big flood one time and it washed it all away.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so then they moved over here on this side.
Mhm.
But, yeah, the old powwow grounds were on the,
Huh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
well, it
That's
was a long, long time ago.
kind of over by Devil's Promenade type area.
Actually, that was it. Devil's Promenade.
Okay. Because that whole story where.
It's on the on the east side of the river.
Okay.
As you cross the bridge.
Yeah. So that's
It's
where
right
that used to
there.
be. Wow. That would have been really pretty to be like right next to the river. That would be
Oh yeah.
really cool.
Oh yeah.
But I could see how it could easily flood.
Yeah, there was a big campground down there. And then of course when this big flood I'm trying to think what year that was.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be about 1940 something.
Oh.
When we had the big flood.
Okay.
Washed it all away. And so
Really?
then they moved the grounds up the hill. they say.
Yeah. Well, where it's situated now is really cool too. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of all comes to a
Yeah.
point, and the lights are really placed
A
perfectly.
natural
and
arena.
It exactly, yeah. It is a natural arena.
A natural arena.
Yeah, it's really cool. So if you're listening and you don't have anything going on this weekend, come out to the powwow. It's
Yeah.
super fun. You can
Oh yeah.
lots to do, lots of people to talk to and
yeah.
see, and
And see and visit
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. And there'll be a bunch of vendors down there too, I guess. I don't know where they're going to put them.
yeah, they just keep getting. There's just more and more vendors every year.
Yeah, last year they put some right in front of my camp, and then
Uh-oh.
we couldn't see down at
Right? Excuse me.
because my camp's right at the top of the hill, and I could just look right down like this and see
Yeah.
everything going on. You know,
Right. Good seats.
they blocked it off. Now I don't know what it's going to be like this
Right.
time.
Hopefully not.
Just
in your
wait
way.
and see.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the water washed some of the bleachers out, and they had to replace those.
Really? I know you said that. That's the ones. Like, see, I guess that would be
Of course, the
on the north
concrete
side.
ones. Well, they had some bleachers on that side, you
Uh-huh.
know, and then there's some on this side of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones on this side that go up the hill, well, those were concrete.
Kind
So
of built into the
yeah,
hill.
so those
Yeah.
were okay.
Okay. But the
I
ones
think
like
all the-
close to the
Yeah,
the
the ones
dance.
that are down close, they had to replace them.
Jeez. Yeah, it was seriously.
So that was one thing I was thankful for being up on top of.
Yeah, right. Your campsite's still there. Don't worry. So, well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you've been really generous.
What else
with
do you
it.
need for me to tell you?
I was wanting to talk a little bit more about the stories because one, you're really good at storytelling,
Oh.
and some of those stories, like when you first told me the children in the pit, like I got scared. Like it struck fear in my heart because it immediately reminded me of credit card debt. Because it was like a modern twist on an old story. I was like, oh wow, that's exactly what modern day debt is to people my age. You know,
Sure,
we get all these trinkets and things. So,
Sure.
would you tell that story for the listeners?
So now which one? About
the children in the pit, where they wanted all these items. They wanted all these.
the teenagers in the pit.
Yeah.
That's the title.
I guess I call children. Yeah.
Can I turn that?
Sure. Yeah. Any which way.
I'm afraid to touch it.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, just whatever.
Teenagers in the pit.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the story as I heard it.
Yeah.
a long time ago. That this happened, I think, probably when our people lived in Arkansas. And anyway, that's where I visualize it happening, And of course, it may not have happened at all. It might just be a story.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the Quapaw village, I should call it Quapaw community, Quapaw village, everybody had chores to do. All the children had chores, just like today, whenever you go home and your mother says, carry out the trash or go water the dogs or something like that. Everybody had a chore. And so the children had gotten where they weren't doing their chores anymore. They'd ignore them, somebody'd tell them and they'd run off and it didn't get done. So all the chores were not being done. And so the parents decided, we've got to get together and get these children under control, and show them what they're supposed to be doing. So they had a meeting. We're always good at having meetings. They had a meeting, and so everybody told, what their children were doing and what they weren't doing. And so they all decided as a group to, what we're going to do is we're going to dig a real deep hole. And it's like a pit, a big pit. And so they did, and they got everybody out there, and they worked so hard, and they dug this big hole in the ground, and it went down deep, And so, and the children would come along, what are you doing? We're digging a pit for you. Oh, that sounds like fun, So they're all getting excited about that, and what are we going to do in that pit? Well, we're going to let you get down there and do all those fun things that you like to do, dance and sing and whatever, And so, okay. So they got the pit dug. And so they told the children, all the children, now, says, we want you, whenever you go down the pit, we want you to have a good time. So you just make a list of all of the things you would like to have. If you want a drum, put that down. If you want a fan, put that down. If you want a new buckskin dress or whatever, new outfit, anyway, make a list of all the things that you would really like to have. Kind of like for Christmas,
Yeah.
So they did. The kids all did that. They made their lists and gave it to their parents. So the parents had to work pretty hard to get all of the stuff the kids wanted. But they knew that's what they wanted, that's what they were going to have. So they got all these things made. And they decided they had to have some ladders to get down into the pit. So they made these ladders, and they put everything down in the pit. They got their drums and their gourds and the feathers and fans and new clothes, new moccasins, new everything. And so the kids all got down there, and man, they were having a good time. Put those new moccasins on, and got out there, and they started dancing and singing and beating on the drum and all that kind of stuff. And they said, okay, says, you can do all of that stuff, but you have to get down in the pit to do that. That's where you have to do this, not up where we're going to be. Mm-hmm. So they all got down in the pit, all the teenagers. These are all teenagers. And so they putting on their new clothes and their new moccasins, had their new fans and gourds, and so they had a drum out there, and they got to beating on the drum and singing the songs, and they started dancing. They were dancing and dancing, and the parents were all up above looking down, watching them. And saying, they were having a good time. They had food down there and all that, And so in the middle of the night, they were having such a good time, they pulled the ladders up, took the ladders out of the pit. And then they packed up all of their belongings, and they moved. the parents. The rest of the families, they left. They went to a new country. And they didn't come back. They stayed there. And so years later, they decided, well, we'll go back and look in the pit where we used to live a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So they did. They made a trip back there. And they looked down in the pit, and there was all these feathers and bones and all that, and all of the fancy stuff that the children wanted was all down in the pit. So they wouldn't mind their parents, and the parents couldn't do anything with them, so they decided that was going to be their punishment. So they moved off and left them, and just that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called The Teenagers in the Pit.
Yeah, that one
So
got
if
me.
you don't want to mind your parents,
Right.
and you don't want to do your chores, you don't want to do your work and everything, you better mind your parents.
Yeah.
Because your parents might get even with you
Right, yeah.
one of these days.
Might dig a pit.
That's right.
Yeah, I always, when you first said that, like I said, I've thought of credit card debt, You want all these things, you make a list, I want new clothes, I want new toys, all these things. Well, you can just use your credit card, and that's the pit that you get stuck in.
That's
And
right.
it scared me. I was driving home from language class like, oh my, I got to get out of debt. It really got to me. But I guess that's kind of what stories are supposed to do, is inspire you or motivate you or
That's
teach.
right.
Teach
That's
you,
right.
things
Teach
like
you
that.
how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. So that one.
And so, because as you're growing up, you're just a baby. You don't know how to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, well, you're going to have to help your parents.
Right.
They have to learn how to hunt. The boys have to learn how to fish.
Mm-hmm.
They have to, carry out the trash, as you say.
Yeah.
And the girls have to learn how to sweep their teepee out, and take care of their laundry and that kind of stuff. Everybody has a job,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you learn.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way to pass down culture too.
Oh, yeah.
Through the stories,
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget, this
yeah.
is who we are. This is where we came from.
That's
this
right.
is what happened.
They learn from their parents.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the Hebrews. They wrote theirs down. Now we call it the Bible. Part of it is is a lot of their stories and where we came from and whatnot. And in a way, it's like that's 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years or I don't know how old, very old, but we still know those stories and they're still told and they have a lot of meaning and memory left in them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
It's like the another story. There was a story about how the boys learn how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They have to learn how to hunt, and they have to learn how to make their own arrows and fix their bows and, have their fishing tackle, I guess you call it, and all that, and learn how to camp out overnight and that sort of thing, because they go on a hunting trip.
Mm-hmm.
It might take 2 or 3 days. So they have to learn how to do all of that. And so back in those days, the uncle of the family was always responsible to be the teacher. He would teach the young boys, and these would be his nephews, and maybe he had sons also. But he would take all of these young boys. So he was the designated teacher. And so he decided he would take these boys and teach them how to hunt. And they would go on a hunting trip, teach them how to camp out. So he told them, now you get all your stuff together. Get your blanket, get your arrows for your bows. You get fishing tackle.
Yeah.
Make sure you have knives, good, stuff like that. And because we're going to be staying overnight, might be 2 or 3 nights.
Sounds like a good weekend.
Yeah, whole weekend. And so get it all together, because we're all going to go as a group, camp together. So they did. The boys got all their gear together, you know. And I always say their backpack.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All their gear.
Yeah. And so they all started out, and they were following Uncle. Uncle was leading the way. And there was a big lake there. So they were going to go way on the other side of this lake. So they started walking. So they were going along. As they were going along, well, the Uncle would tell the boys, you know, now you pay attention where we're going, because this is a long trip, so you don't want to get lost, you know. So he was telling them how to do things, you know. They were going along, but they weren't paying any attention to him. They were throwing rocks at each other and picking up sticks and stuff and teasing each other, you know, and punching them and making them laugh and just playing. And so he would tell them, now you're not paying attention, you got to listen, because this is stuff you need to learn. You got to know this. And we're going to go hunting. We're going to hunt for deer. We're going to hunt for little animals. We'll hunt for all kinds of stuff that your family has to have. So, okay. So they were going along, and the boys still not listening, you know. They're still playing around, throwing rocks and acting goofy and stuff like that. So they get way on the far side of the lake, and they're still acting silly, you know. I'm going to say silly. And so he said, now we're gonna go all the way around the lake. So when you were walking along, they'd see some little animals and stuff, and they'd kind of shoot at them and not really pay much attention to them, and turtles and stuff like that. And so they got on the other side of the lake, and so they camped. They set up their camp. They found some old logs, and they kind of made a camp around the logs there. And so as they were getting ready to fish, they're going to fish, and some of them were going to go hunting. And the uncle told them, said, we're going to let you, you know, some of them went hunting, and some of them decided to fish, so they were fishing. And but they were still playing. They just kept wanting to play all the time, you know, just goofing around. So as they were trying to do what Uncle told them to do, pretty soon they looked up, and they heard this noise, and there was this giant turtle that was coming up out of the water. Came up out of the water, and he's coming up on the land, and he was walking along. Oh my gosh, they'd never seen anything like that. They thought, oh boy, this is going to be fun, you know.
Yeah.
So they ran over to the giant turtle, and they jumped on its back, and they were kind of acting like it was a horse and kind of whipping on it, you know, and tormenting that poor turtle. And turtle just kept going. And so the uncle told him, says, boys, you don't treat that turtle that way. Now, you know, turtles have families too. And said, and he has a mother, and he's got a father. So you be nice to those animals. You got to be good to animals, because they're going to be good to you. So anyway, no, they didn't listen to Uncle. They're still beating on the turtle and jumping on its back and jumping off and trying to ride it like a horse and everything. Yeah. And so they wouldn't listen to him. And so finally he said, now, you boys have got to behave, because turtles have power too. They have power also. And you need to treat that turtle good. Treat it good so it'll treat you good. And so he said, it's time for us to go on now. Let's go on hunting. So come on, get off the turtle. Let's go. Well, they couldn't get off. They were stuck. They stuck. They were all on this turtle, and the turtle had them. They're just like glue on this turtle's back. And pretty soon the turtle turns around and starts going toward the lake. He goes in the lake. They get about halfway there, and the boys start yelling, Uncle, Uncle, help us, we can't get off the turtle. He said, I told you, turtles have their power too. So now, what you're doing, that turtle is going to punish you for.
Oof.
He said, I tried to get you to behave and mind me, and you wouldn't do it. So now, that turtle's going to take you with him. And he went down into the water. We never saw him again.
Oh, wow.
So what kind of a lesson does that teach?
Listen to your...
You be kind to animals.
And that, yeah.
Yeah. You can't beat up on them and
Right.
stuff like that, you know. So you be good to those animals.
Right.
Don't torture them.
And listen to your uncle.
Oh, yeah. Listen to your uncle. When people tell you things to do, you do those things, you know. Because that's what uncle is trying to teach you, how to behave.
And a lot of times when those, like that particular story, when it first came into reality, like that's the outcome that could happen if you didn't listen to your uncle or your mom. Like you could die.
Your
pretty
family,
easily.
You get punished for it.
Right.
And then sometimes it comes in different forms. You don't know.
Yeah.
You know. But somebody say, well, that's the accident. Well, an accident may happen on purpose.
Yeah, right. Yeah. See, like the punishments back in the day were that severe, you know. If you were going out, basically that was a survival trip. You know, this is how you survive. And by you learning how to survive, you'll help your family to survive and the tribe to survive.
Exactly.
And it goes on and on. Today, you know, sometimes the punishment doesn't come so swift if we don't listen to the people that are trying to teach us things. So you can get away with a little bit more, and after a while it'll catch up.
If they were paying attention, and uncle was going to teach them how to hunt for animals, you know, to take home like deer, and feed their families, and fish in the lakes and in the waters, and catch fish to take home, to feed the family.
How to live.
Yeah,
you know,
how to live.
Teach them how to live.
Yeah. But instead, all they wanted to do was play.
Yeah. So that kind of also speaks on focusing on work rather than play. You know, there's a time for work and there's a time for play. And was the old saying, make hay when the sun is shining? You know, that's when it's time to work, you need to put in the time.
That's right.
And there will be a time to relax and enjoy your rewards.
Yeah.
So,
because when they got older, then if they had to go on a hunting trip, they had to know how to do that.
Yeah, it added value to them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So
what about, I love these stories. I love the origin story of the clans and how, you know, each part of the tribe got to pick, like, oh, we're going to be the bear clan, you know, or we're going to be the crane, the spider. I love the spider one.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that is a good story. Oh my goodness.
Because wasn't that, I think it had to do with the I think they call it the head lady, right? Wasn't it, like the older sister? Was that her title? Or the head woman? There was a title or a status.
A head, yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness.
That one was really good.
You have to tell me the story. So
I'm trying to remember. I have it on camera. I recorded it the first time.
I forget. I don't have these written down.
Yeah, I have that one, so that one's okay.
Actually, we've been planning to do that for a long time. So we've got one on the history. We've got one on language. We've got 2 or 3 tapes already, and we were kind of leaving the storytelling to last. Well, now we've gotten down to the last. We need to record that.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a major operation for us.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so the last ones we had made at NEO, and the students that recorded it had to come from Little Rock.
Okay.
Or someplace else.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Fayetteville. I don't know. Fayetteville, I guess. But anyway, they recorded it. And it took us 2 or 3 days to do
Really?
that.
Wow.
I couldn't believe
Did they do audio and video, or just audio, or?
No, they it was at the college. They had it all set up.
Okay.
They had audio.
Okay.
Yeah. Video and audio. I
Okay.
think, both.
Yeah. That would be cool. I would definitely listen to that.
Yeah.
If they got that finished.
But I do need to get the stories. Actually, I've had a hard time trying to figure out how to do this to shorten the stories so that they would be for small children.
Okay.
You know, so you got to cut out a lot of the
Details.
you know, to kind of make it interesting.
Yeah.
Where they don't lose interest before you get finished with the story.
Right.
Because the way I tell them, it's kind of a long, drawn-out story. They have to pay attention for a while. That's why I always tell people, I said, now, little children, it's not easy to teach them because their attention span is too short.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And our way of teaching it takes a long time.
Yeah. It's got to be flashy. It's got to be loud. You know, it's got to really capture their attention.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. And I think whenever we first began, they started bringing the little bitty kids, and the little bitty kids they don't pay attention.
Yeah. Right.
You know, they want to play.
Right. Of course. Yeah, that would be tough.
So and I would like to have like a series of story books.
That would be cool.
And have each one be a different short story.
Right.
So then the little kids, they could see, but they also need an artist.
Yeah, some illustrations.
To have pictures that they can look at, you know, and turn the page and then have the stories. And probably could have maybe like for beginners and then some for older children.
Right.
Like teenager, preteen.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's totally doable. I've seen some like cartoons on YouTube that are like native legends that they've kind of animated and put together.
Right.
Yeah, I think those were Lakota. I think. But
so
definitely.
We need to, and we've got some pretty good artists that could do pictures like that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And I think really real pictures like of Quapaw, you know, like pictures like this or something like this, so that they look like real primitive.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that would totally, like just the story that you just told now. You know, that would be a perfect visual story. You know, uncle and boys and turtle, and that would be one to take on.
And seeing in this one over here, down at the back there.
The one under the food. Yeah.
Down below there. But we've got some artists, and I'm just going to have to get them together. I guess try to find out who can do it or who will do it.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool to have different artists, because then each book would kind of look different, feel different. That would be really cool.
Larry Daylight is a really good artist.
Larry Daylight? Okay. I know, like Coogie Supernaw.
Cuggy.
Or Cuggy, yeah. I really like his paintings and things.
Yeah. Might get him to do, if they just had to do one or something like that, you know.
Maybe they'd do
different ones.
Yeah.
It would be good.
Yep. Are there other people that know stories too that could maybe all get together and compile the stories? Like, I know you know a lot.
That's why I want to have the Dagiha session with the Omahas. And the Wajaji and Quapaws, because I think each one has different stories.
Right.
So if we get together and tell each other our stories, there may be some that would be the same, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there would be.
Yeah.
There might be some that are almost
close,
the same. Yeah, and just a tiny little variation here and there.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting to say, like, I wonder why that changed over all these years.
That's how we got here from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always thought it was so interesting. We learned this during language class, how much native culture is just around you, like Neosho. I just grew up, like, oh, that's Neosho. Yet, you broke it down as dancing river. That's kind of what that means. And Wichita, is a tribe name. All these things that I just kind of grew up with, but it's everywhere.
You don't know where it came from.
It just kind of was there. But then to get the backstory on it, there's a really good book by a Canadian author named The Inconvenient Indian, and he has a whole chapter on logos that are based off native culture, like huge logos, like Plymouth and things like that, like cars and food and clothes, but then also landmarks, entire towns and cities that are named after tribes or terms of from certain languages. It was a fascinating chapter, and there were things where I had no idea that had anything to do with native culture at all, but it does.
Well, actually, if you just sit down and look at a map, and it has the names of the towns, a lot of those are Indian names,
Yeah.
And so it is interesting in that. Every once in a while, I kind of do that, and I think, oh, that's a Quapaw word, or that's a Cherokee word.
Something like Shatopa,
Oh, yeah.
And then you break it down, and it's like
Shitopa.
Yeah, Shitopa, 4 houses. Like, what? Like, you just I've driven through that town so many times, but now every time I drive by, I think of the chief with 4 wives. Yeah.
Wonder where those houses are.
Right. Yeah.
The one on each corner.
Yeah.
The 4 corners.
Yeah. I love that.
Goodness. Yeah. I have a very good friend who lives in Tucson, Arizona. We got to be friends when we lived in Montana, and then as they retired, they moved to warm country,
Yeah.
and then we came back home, so we got separated. But she was Mandan.
Okay.
Mandan. And the thing about it was once we got acquainted and I started listening to some of her stuff, it's very similar. So I think they're probably a branch off of Lakota also.
Yeah, I believe
Mandan.
it. Yeah.
And so it's really interesting when you kind of get acquainted with people from different places,
Yeah.
Well, actually, we're kind of related.
Swapping stories like that. Like, actually, we have the same story, or something close to it.
That's it.
Close to it. I have a question for you. Within different beliefs and religions and whatnot, everyone kind of has an idea of what happens when you die. Like I was raised Christian. My mom's big Christian, and so, you believe, like, if you believe in Jesus, you get to go to heaven. If not, you go to hell. Do the Quapaw have a certain belief, like an afterlife belief, or what does that encompass as far as spirituality?
Well,
I know I really shifted gears on you.
That's a very good question. The way I believe, and I guess I had to acquire that from my grandparents, was that there's I describe it as like a river, and we cross over to the other side, and then we cross over on to the other side, but it's not difficult to get there. Like in the storytelling, that like when we were washed down the river, it was difficult to get across because that was a flood stage.
Yeah.
So that was very difficult to get across there when we got to our homeland, let's say. And but this crossing to the other side is not difficult. There's kind of a road, and And I always think of that road because if my grandfather was a roadman, he'd always say in some of his prayers, when you go down that road, it's a long road to get to the other side. You know, and so there are certain things that we do before we take that trip because we're going to be traveling. And one of the things that we make up to send with them on that trip, they always say, prepare a bundle. So we have to prepare a bundle to go with that person. And they put certain things in there. One of them is you put an extra pair of moccasins. You know, because you're going to be walking a long way. You're going to wear those out. You know, those extra pair of moccasins. And you need something to cook in and something to get water in. So you have a little pot maybe with a handle. So, and sometimes if I'm shopping around in a store or something, I'll see some little pot with a handle. That's the kind of pot we need.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I better buy that.
For that bundle, yeah.
But certain things like that you put in there, and a scarf, a black scarf. That was one of the reasons. I don't mind the black scarf, but anyway, those things are important things that go in that bundle. You know. And but those are your supplies for your trip because you're going to be traveling a long ways, you know. And so you have to have your blanket. You have a blanket, and you have a feather. You have a feather to fan yourself off with, you know. And you have that little pot to cook in or drink out of. You may have a separate, might have a pot, and then a cup. You could have a cup. And a long time ago, we had like little enameled cups that have a handle on them. Have a little handle on them. That kind of a cup. And then your moccasins, your extra pair, and a change of clothes. So, we always put a change of clothes in there. Going to go on a long trip, you got to have
sure
some more clothes. So that's all the stuff that you put in your bundle,
right?
And then you tie it up with I guess that's the scarf. You take the scarf, tie it all together, and then they put it in them. Either put it down in the casket, or they wait till the casket gets on the ground, then they put it down at the foot.
Okay.
Kind of. And so that goes with him.
Okay. So where
because you're going to go on a travel, you're going on a long road, and then you're going to cross over that river to the other side.
Yeah. So the other side's kind of like
that's heaven.
A heaven, yeah. Okay.
Where the rest of your family is. And I think of that sometimes. I think my family on the other side, it would be my father, my mother, my grandparents, my daughter that I just lost. And a little boy, so, that's your family that's going to be there to greet you. They're waiting on us. They're waiting on us. So I always figure it's a good place to look forward to go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to that, get to see my relatives again, our loved ones.
Right.
That we got separated from. So anyway, and so in my prayers, like in the morning and at night, I say my prayers. I always include all of those people, and I'm going to be there one day, you know. And so, like I said, it's a place to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because your loved ones are going to be there, you know.
Be wonderful to see all those people again, you know, after so much time.
Yeah. So.
With the moccasins, Jin used to take me around the casino, and she'd show me. And the moccasins that she showed me, they had beads all the way around. Is that
on the soles?
On the soles and everything.
Yes. Some tribes, the Lakotas do that. Okay. I think all the Sioux do.
Okay.
I think we kind of quit doing that, I guess, because it was so much work.
Yeah, it would be a chore.
And it got where people didn't want to do them, I guess.
Yeah.
But I have a pair of moccasins that I had made, and my granddaughters wear them, and they're really, really pretty. And I told them when we were at Pawhuska, and they were wearing my moccasins, and I said, girls, don't wear those moccasins out. And they said, well, why, Grandma? I said, because those are my going away moccasins. And I had them special made. And they're turquoise.
Oh, wow.
They're beaded, completely beaded, but not on the bottom, just the top.
Yeah.
But they're Osage style.
Okay.
You know what Osage style moccasins are? They're very plain, and then they just have a flap on the top that turns down. I've got several pairs back there in the
you have
museum.
to show me, yeah.
I have to show them to you.
Covered in turquoise. Oh, wow.
Now, the ones that I have,
Yeah.
my going away moccasins, the girls have, and they'll be
sure.
wearing them at the dance probably.
Oh, wow.
But I always tell them, I say, don't wear my moccasins.
Yeah.
I may have to have them resold.
Yeah, right. Repaired before you can use them.
But they like to wear them because they are pretty.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the only pair I've ever seen. But I designated that, and that's why they like to wear them over there in Pawhuska, because nobody else has any.
Right.
So they get lots of compliments. Oh, where'd you get your moccasins?
Like, wow, they're my grandma's.
They're my grandma's.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, we're fortunate we all wear the same size.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're like, come on, let me wear it for a while. That's amazing. Well, we've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Can you believe that?
Really?
It doesn't seem like it.
I don't even have my watch on.
Right?
I think I've got one somewhere.
Probably the phone, right? That's what we use anymore.
Okay. Anything?
But yeah, I really appreciate you sitting me down. I always have a good time talking to you and listening to the stories and learning from you. And I know I'm not the only one. A lot of people speak highly of you and look up to you.
Well, thank you.
Like I said before, wit simi to many, you know. But would you be willing to say a prayer in Okapa as we close the show?
Oh, say a prayer. Yeah. Okay.
I think that'd be a cool way to kind of wrap everything up, and people can hear the prayer and the language and kind of live forever through the internet.
Okay. Yes. That'd be nice. Okay. Hanshon tate. Wakanda hanga ejinke. Hiwijti andagani kambade. Ganige o gafpa iya. Ganige o gafpa wachon. Ganige o gafpa nikashiga. Jani nikashiga. Awantong thea kansa. Dakwale a jinkashi. Awantong thea kansa. O gafpa nikashiga. Awantong thea kansa. O gafpa. All of the get together for the powwow. Bless all those people, Father. Have them come, enjoy our get together, and I pray that take everybody home in safety and watch over them, Father. All these things we ask in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I always enjoy those. So.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for spending some time with me. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again soon. And I'd love to help out with the illustrations for the stories or recording more things. So just let me know.
Well, that's nice.
I like to help out. So
that's nice. So we may be hollering at you one of these days.
Yeah, Karen's got my number, my email, so I live right down the street. All right, everyone, thank you for listening today. I brought the studio with me over here to the Quapaw Tribal Museum. You can come check it out. They have a lot of cool items in the building. You can see a lot of cultural history, photos, blankets, all kinds of stuff. So come check it out. As always, if you want to come on the podcast, let me know, and we'll see you soon. All right, everybody have a great week. Peace.
787. 787 departure frequency 15 will be 125 minutes. 25-7, thanks.
SciFi wins.